Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Logan Williams with the recent spate of spring-like weather. That means that spring flooding season is just around the corner. Of course, flooding is always a big disaster all across the country. It's the second biggest weather killer across the United States. Of course, when it happens, you never want to drive through those floodwaters. As much as 6 inches of water is enough to take down a person. 2 feet can lift a vehicle, and 90% of all presidentially declared disasters have to do with flooding. So, of course, it is a big risk, especially here in the Tri-States, where you have the Mississippi River, the Illinois River, and, of course, all of the other smaller rivers and tributaries. Now, the National Weather Service released their first spring flooding outlook of the year, and they're calling for near to below average threat of flooding across the tri-states. One of the reasons for that is the drought monitor. There's a lot of different factors that go into this, but of course, one of the biggest reasons is how dry it is, of course. Now, locally, we have been seeing abnormally dry conditions to moderate drought conditions persist. It's been a relatively dry winter, precipitation running a little bit below average, along with snowfall as well. Now, this impacts the Mississippi and Illinois rivers a little bit. What has a bigger impact on those two rivers is what's happening up north. Now, along the Illinois River, you can see most of Illinois running average when it comes to precipitation. However, as you get up into parts of Iowa, you can see there is some moderate, severe, even extreme drought in the western parts of the state. All of this eventually does factor into the Mississippi River Basin, which has an impact on the flooding potential across the region. You can see that here in the river's drainage map. Everything to the east of this white line goes into the Mississippi River here locally. So those dry conditions across Iowa means many of these creeks and streams are drier, which means lower overall threats here for the Mississippi. Across the western or west of that line, all of those rivers and creeks drain down into the Missouri River, which of course goes into Mississippi to the south of the tri-states. One other factor that has an impact on flooding is the snowpack. Now, this one's a little bit opposite of the drought. We have the drought across parts of Iowa. However, notice there's a pretty healthy snowpack across parts of Minnesota and northern Iowa where the Mississippi River begins. And so that will have an impact of course, if it melts very quickly, we could see some isolated patches of flooding along parts of the Mississippi, especially, not as much the Illinois River. However, if it gradually melts as we continue to stay on the above average side, then we'll have a lower overall flooding potential. Lastly, of course, these outlooks are released every couple of weeks in the springtime because conditions can change. We can get lots of big rain events. Now, right now, according to the Climate Prediction Center, the seasonal prediction from February, March, and April shows us seeing an above average chance of above average precipitation here across the region. It's low, but it is there. You can see up to the north, generally average. So right now, overall, the overarching theme, we could see minor flooding along the Mississippi and Illinois rivers, and especially some of the more local rivers and creeks. However, the risks are not high right now. That could change, of course, and especially along some of those creeks and streams, flash flooding will always remain a threat as we get into spring and into the summertime. Stay tuned, of course. Once these outlooks change, we will bring you further updates.